Welcome back to Themes in Environmental Literature in 4 minutes or less. Today I'll be talking about the unpredictability of nature. Humans lack complete control over nature. Sure, there are things we can do to control it for the time being, such as apply pesticides or herbicides, but eventually the insects are going to develop a tolerance to it, the soil is going to become barren. And this is true for antibiotics. Because nature is not static and is always changing and evolving, it is unpredictable. The most obvious and well-known example of the unpredictability of nature is the weather. Weather is inconsistent and not always predictable, and this can be seen not just in environmental literature, but in each of our own circumstances. Just last week, on December 1st, it was 70 degrees. The next day, it was pouring down cold rain. Dramatic changes in temperature day to day are not only pieces of nature that are unpredictable. As Lisa Fisherman put simply in her poem Out of the Field, in the weather that was not written. And later on, she says, the season had altered again. And even something as predictable as the seasons change. Humans often prepare for what they think will happen, but are often caught off guard by acts of nature. In Annie Dillard's Pink Pilgrim at Tinker Creek, there's a flood of the creek that Annie knows so well. A flood unlike anything she had ever seen. A flood that went over the brick flood wall. In fact, Dillard was so caught off guard by it, she couldn't see this creek that she had grown up with as her creek. On page 151, she says, "It looks like somebody else's creek that had usurped or eaten our creek and is roving frantically to escape, big and ugly, like a black snake caught in a kitchen drawer." To her, this flood was so unlike anything she had ever seen. Not only was she unable to claim it, but she was unable to compare it to something of another event that would happen in nature itself. She compared it to a piece of nature, a snake, in the confines of something completely human, a kitchen drawer. Now, this unpredictability is not limited to changes in weather. It's not limited to the developed resistance to pesticides and antibiotics. It applies to creatures as well. Dillard describes in detail her experience watching a frog being eaten by a water bug. This is a scene I personally would have never imagined, and I still have a hard time imagining it, let alone let it be something that I expect to see. This is not to say violence is not an unpredictable facet of nature. I would argue that it is, but nature is full of the unexpected. In flight behavior, no one, not even the scientist Ovid, had predicted that the monarch butterflies would roost in Appalachia. Yet they did. And even beyond that, no one thought that they would survive the winter. And yet they did, despite the temperature dropping below the minimum threshold. Many works of environmental literature show that nothing in nature is permanently predictable, except for its unpredictability and its perseverance. I'll talk more about the perseverance of nature in tomorrow's post.